Welcome to day number 19 of Codetober. So on yesterday's video, we saw how to do this, how to get to this part, because I'm using that in my filter value by conditions function from my GitHub repository. And the thing is that I wanted to show you how this part works. So let me take the whole thing. So this is a payload that I'm gonna put here. And then let me just do this one thing so you can see how it works. So if I let me put this here first, and then if I put this variable here, and then this variable is condition split by, yes, so is this whole thing. Oops. All right, so first, so you can see, so this is the variable that I have right now. It's just the first thing, so active true. Now I'm going to do, let's put payload here. So as you can see, this is being already filtered, so active true, because 789 is active false. Then we end up with just these two. So how is that actually working? Let me put this in comments and see. So if I do payload, and then let me take the first item just as an example, and this would be basically like using this character here. So if I do that, and then I say first condition array, and then 0, which is what I have inside here, I end up with true. Now, what is my first condition array 0 again? It's active. So if I take active and put it here instead of this whole thing, this is what I get back. This is the same as saying payload 0.active. Payload 0 active.active is true, then payload 1.active is true, but payload 2, this one, active, is false. So I'm just trying to confirm that this part .active is equal or coerced equal. Oh, that was the other thing that I was going to do. Okay, on my first video, I'm going to explain this operator. But for now, let's just say like it's not equals, it's like equal-ish. So if I get like my first condition array 1, it would be true. So the 0 is active and the 1 is true. So let me put that instead. If I say payload 0, well, if I say payload and then I do filter, and I don't need any of that, and then I do .active true, this is basically what's happening. So then for the second iteration, I would just do like .name, and then the name would be ABC. Oops. ABC. And then for the third one, this would be .id, and this would be 1, 2, 3. And that is how we keep filtering stuff. So the thing here is that we are taking the field first from this first condition array and then the split by thing. And then we are comparing that value from the field to the value that we want to get. And that is how this thing is working. This is how this is filtering all of the stuff. Thank you. Thanks to this split by thing. So now let me just continue explaining what is a filter function. If you are not familiar with it. So here we have, for example, 9, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we do a filter, and then we want to filter everything that which index is more than 2. So even if I change this to 1, the index is still more than 2 because we have this is index 0, index 1, 2. So everything that will come after this, like 4 and 1, or if I add like 0 here, is index more than 2. If I were to change this to value instead of index, then this would filter by value. So 9 and then 2 doesn't count because it's not more than 2. And we have 3, 4, and then 1 and 0 don't apply. But if I use index, then I end up with 4, 1, and 0 because the index is this one. Then another example that we have is this one. So instead of using value and index, you can just use a function directly. And if you use the $sign, then this means that you're taking the index. And if you use just the $sign, then this means the value. So before I go into this one, let me explain that here. So if I just do index and filter, here I want to use index, so I can just do $sign, and as you can see, it's the same output. And if I just do $1, then this is the value, 934 are more than 2. So that's the difference between using $sign. I can only write between using just a single $sign and a double $sign in the filter function. So now let's put here the other example that we had. So now we're doing a filter with an AND condition operator. So we're saying the index has to be more than 1. So index 0, index 1, and we will take 3, 4, and 5. And then we're also saying, and the value has to be less than 5. So let me do this step by step. If I take this out, so index is more than 1, then we have 3, 4, and 5. These ones here. And then we're saying, and the value has to be less than 5. So the 3, 4, and 5, and then less than 5. So we end up just with 3 and 4. Then this is another huge example that you can see. For example, you have these variable users, which is an array, and then you have an object user, and then an object name and last name, and the error. So you want to filter for all of the items when item.error is null. So you can do this, for example. And if you want to use the other kind of way of doing it, you can also just take this out, and instead of item, you want to do single $sign, and that will also work. So you are filtering by anything which error is null. If this wasn't null, then this is no longer being put here. So we end up with an empty array. But if I put a null here, then we end up with both of them. Here's another example. This is the input that they give us. And this is the DataWeave script. So we're mapping everything. ID equals payload.id, markcode equals payload.marketcode. So this is the ID, this is the market code, and blah, blah, blah. And then for the phone number, we're saying payload.profile.base.phone. And then this phone field is an array of objects. So we can filter as an array of objects. We do filter, and then we do the value. So anything in this object, and then dot active int, and then equals y. So if this equals y, this one doesn't equals y, this one equals y, and primary int is also y. So in this case, we have 2. This one doesn't match. This one does match. And then from those that we get, we are also extracting that number. So this. And if this number does not exist or is a null, then we want to default to an empty array. So we end up with these two numbers, 230, which is this one, and 15, blah, 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 which is this one. And this one doesn't apply because this is n and this is n. If I were to change this one from y to n or to anything, this wouldn't work anymore. And if I were to change, for example, this one to anything else, then this wouldn't work anymore. But the default is an empty array. If I were to remove this, then the default would be just null, like just whatever comes back, which is a null. But I don't want to send a null. I just want to send an empty array. So that's why the default is 4. And that's it. All right, for the next video, I am going to explain this equal-ish operator to let you know how this is working. So that was a filter function. I hope you liked it. Remember to follow me on my socials at Martinez. Subscribe here and comment below if you want me to do anything else on this series. You still have 2 weeks. And thank you again so much for watching. See you in the next video.